You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. And joining me today is Ben Lacy, who you may recognize as the author of Samson. He was here just a few short months ago, but today he's here to talking about his flagship comic book, Sharkovore, and we're coming into issue number 9, which is going to be the end of an arc.
That's correct.
Ben, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So let's dive into it. So for people who have not heard of Sharkovore yet, and this is the first time they're hearing about it, how would you describe the series and what makes it different than other Kickstarter or indie comics out there?
Sharkovore, simply put, is, do it in a simple terms, is Jaws meets RoboCop. It's Jaws if the shark were the hero, RoboCop if the cop were a shark. He's an escaped U.S. military experiment enforcing the law in the sea. And at this point in the story, the mobsters he is going after, mostly drug traffickers, human traffickers, criminal cartels, are fed up with him, and they have hired somebody to make bigger monsters to take him down. So the first 5 issues were kind of his origin story. And this current 4-issue arc is called the Whales of War arc, where they've developed something bigger and stronger than him to take him down. Killer whales that have been modified like he has. I think what separates this from a lot of Kickstarters, of course, is that this is we're issue 9 of the series.
That's very rare.
Which is a lot for an indie comic Kickstarter. You can get all 9 issues, and it forms a continuous story that you can follow. I think that it's unique also if you're someone who likes sharks and likes shark movies and things like that. It's unique in how it has a different relationship with the shark. Normally, you watch movies; they're basically Jaws with a bigger shark. The Meg was Jaws with a gigantic shark. Under the sea, all of those, they're the shark trying to kill somebody. And we're supposed to sympathize with the human. In this case, the shark is the hero. He's been modified, so he has a level of intelligence, approaching that of a person, though he thinks like a shark. So you get that sci-fi aspect of seeing the story through his eyes and how he views it, even as a non-human person, a non-human entity. I don't know if people remember things like We 3 or other stories like that involving sentient animals, but I've tried to have some of that, not to humanize him, but make him still a shark that's been made smarter.
Oh, he's 100% still a shark and thinks with his belly. Only now he does it consciously.
Yeah. He, I made an intentional choice where he starts to evolve some emotions that you wouldn't, a non-thinking animal wouldn't have. But after somebody tries to kill him, he starts to get mad about it. And anger is not something I don't think most animals, inherently have toward somebody or a specific person. But how he's specifically angry. but his his way of going about it is different, and he's trying to he's also got confined because the people that made him put boundaries on him that force him into certain behaviors that he doesn't necessarily like, and so he has an adversarial relationship, well, kind of an odd couple relationship with the AI that has been implanted in him to try and control him. Sometimes they work together, sometimes they're very much at odds.
That's a great segue for to set the stage for this. So issue 9 does bring us to the big finale of the Wells of War arc.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a spoiler-free breakdown of what's been building up to this moment. You were almost getting there. I was like, okay, he may go ahead and answer this one, but you stopped just short of it, I think.
Well, the spoiler-free is there's going to be a big fight between him and a much bigger and more powerful monster, and it's going to be something that he's going to have to use his intelligence to win or to at least survive. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, the bad guys are really in a dominant position, and they're improving their situation. In a way, I think of it as if I look at Shark of War as a trilogy of stories, which is kind of how I look at it. With this is the second part. I view this as the Empire Strikes Back of the Shark of War storyline, where survival is his hope, not victory. That's kind of very much what you see in I think Empire Strikes Back. They survived, but they hardly won in that movie. In some way,
yeah.
Why it's considered the best of the Star Wars movies.
No arguments here on that one. So I want to point out Dr. Douglas, who is the main antagonist at this point, along with the cartel, also helped create the Shark of War. Right. She was behind the AI intelligence, or helping to weave the brain and the AI.
She was a neurosurgeon who, Ray Fisher was the scientist who was, doing the computer side and the hardware side of the concept. The computer AI insertion, all the technology the Shark of War has, like the jets and the weaponry and the hardened skin. She was the neurosurgeon who figured out how to enhance his intelligence and link him up with being able to use these machines. Yep. She realized that there was a lot more money to be had. Rather than working for the United States military as a contractor, she took that technology and then sold it to criminal cartels who would like to have these things as weapons. And she, rather than focusing on making intelligent creatures, she focused on mass producing, monsters that would do her bidding. And at that point, she basically stole the tech and sabotaged the program it ran, and got hired.
But she's not been able to really duplicate those efforts so far,
right?
And everything that she's done.
Yeah, her skill set is biology and neuroscience, and what she started to realize is the fact that the shark, she didn't want to make intelligent creatures. She wanted to make basically remote controlled drone animals that she would control, and she started to realize those were too stupid to make to take down the Shark of War. So what she realized that she needed to make an intelligent creature. And she knew how to do that, but she didn't know how to control it, because the control was the hardware side, the artificial intelligence that's been implanted into his brain. So she didn't understand how to do that part of it, and that's the technology she basically acquired in the last issue. So now she's able to make a creature just like the Shark of War and control it to the way she wants to, because that was her fear, is that she would make this thing and it basically turn on her. And there's actually a short story where as part of the Cthulhu Man arc, where she tried to make a giant creature before, and it did turn on.
Yeah, I seen you made a reference in issue 8 to Cthulhu Man as well.
Yeah, so she tried to make creatures before that were that had intelligence, and they
Mhm.
invariably backfired on her. So she knew she needed to have the same kind of control, that same kind of governor basically that the Shark of War
Yeah.
has. And of course her governor is going to be much harsher even than the Shark of War's governor, because if you follow the story, the AI, you can see the AI also evolving a little bit, where
Yeah,
or
he
it
he
it it has kind of its own personality and thoughts too, and it's starting to, even though it's forced to do things, you start to see it's kind of being forced to do these things that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily want to do these things that it has to do.
Yeah, it was I really enjoyed, and I know we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, is like I enjoyed seeing how the art,
Right.
evolved, but also within this story, you also see the AI and the shark evolve, and kind of like they're starting to think similarly about things and topics,
Right.
and like what their ultimate directives are and that kind of stuff. And I really thought that was cool how you kept everything in sync that way. With the shark is getting smarter, the shark is learning, the AI is also learning the habits of the shark and that kind of stuff. I really thought that was cool, and how you kind of melded those two
Thank you.
aspects together, because I don't think you can really have them competing against each other, even though you do see the AI kind of like give a couple of hand smacks a few times, like, no,
Yeah.
we can't do that.
Yeah, and it's the AI being a function of its programming, not necessarily a function of its own desire. I
Mm-hmm.
if Shark of War, I basically pitch it as an exciting action-packed thing, but if it has any deeper meaning, there's two things I like to point to. Is the first is that people have an irrational fear of sharks, ever since Jaws came out, and this kind of spoofs that a little bit, and counterpoints that irrational fear. And the second thing is about our relationship with AI, which of course is becoming much, even
It's evolving as well.
when Shark of War started 5 years ago, it was just a minor discussion, but now it's full on. And my view of AI had always been that at some level it would be kind of might evolve into this symbiotic relationship where you see not only the Shark of War, but the second Ray Fisher,
Yep.
who the first one died in issue one of Shark of War, but his clone, which is a merger of clone body parts and a computer artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
takes over, and that personality is actually a kinder, better person than the original was.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, because
that
I
was
know
kind of
you said that they never had a chance to meld the real Dr. Fisher's mind into the AI mind.
yeah,
So he's like Dr. Fisher, but he's not as harsh as the
yeah,
actual Dr. Fisher.
yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And I know I've seen that in a movie somewhere as well, where the body parts were in tanks. And then there was an AI as well. I know there was a movie. I can't remember the movie,
I think there's been a
but
couple things where there's been
I'm sure
like
there has.
brains in bottles, and that's kind of where I drew it from. Is that I was referencing those kind of old 1950s style horror movies.
Mhm.
They saved Hitler's brain kind of stuff, or
Yeah.
or, or things like that, where you have the floating brain in the bottle. And then I was like, well, he's also got this AI and merge where now he has a different perspective than the original him. And
Mhm.
he doesn't, where the original person was driven so much by ego and ambition and arrogance.
Yeah.
The new version, with where he's been merged with this computer, and gives him a broader perspective, and he's not nearly as arrogant, and he's much more helpful. And
Mhm.
now he's the before he was the Lex Luthor, and now he's more like the Mr. Terrific, maybe, or something. I'm trying to think of a good
No,
analog,
I like the
helpful,
reference.
the Reed Richards
Yeah.
of the story, rather than
So now we have Dr. Douglas. She's unleashing the Mega Well of War as the ultimate boss threat.
right.
What inspired this monstrous escalation? And how does it push Gnasher to his limits? Which we're already seeing that a little bit in issue 8. And I'm sure by issue 9, that's about to, well, it's out now. Well,
It's on Kickstarter. Fund
Kickstarter
it.
now.
People
It's
need to
being
go back
funded right
it.
now.
But people need to go back it.
But like, kind of break that down for us. Like,
Yeah, I mean, this is her. She's evolved this weapon. She's making a lot of money by supplying the cartel with these cyborg creatures.
mhm,
And her counterpart, the head of the mob, Lupita Tiburone, who took over, in issue 5 after the death of her brother. She's found a way to use these creatures to make herself the most, the top crime lord on earth, by a fairly clever scheme of using them as a way to smuggle drugs.
mhm.
So they
And also managed to make herself the most beloved person in
right.
her country.
Yeah, because Gnasher's battle with the whales in the earlier issue, made made it look like the United States might be attacking that country.
Yeah.
When they realized the shark had U.S. emblems on it, she used that to her advantage to basically promote herself as she's acting like a very much like a
Philanthropist.
and she's pretending to be a philanthropist, and she's using fear mongering and and stuff like that to get people to think she's the she's a protector against this idea that their country's being invaded, which of course isn't what happened. It was Gnasher was attacked and the battle took place over this country, and they thought it was an invasion. So she's kind of twisted the truth around to her own ends as she pursues power. And like I said, in part of this series, we're going to see where that goes, and it's going to lead into the next arc. And it's going to be a fairly, this arc is going to conclude, and it's more a struggle for survival at this point than a struggle for victory. Because now she's got the use of this gigantic creature plus all the other creatures that she has on hand. Well, meanwhile, the United States is kind of playing with one hand tied behind its back because it doesn't want to, go to war with this country.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting, and I know when the Navy, this lone person who is technically in charge of Gnasher, breaks into their research facility and discovers all these other I don't want to say monsters because
they're people who have been experimented on.
Yeah, they're people who have been experimented on. I really got Island of Dr. Moreau vibes from that scene.
Yeah.
Which phenomenal movie. Not the 90s one, but the one that came out in the 50s was completely brilliant. The other one was good too, but I will always prefer the black and white 1950s one. And I got that vibe from that. So are we gonna see those people come back in the next issue? Or
no, you won't see them right away.
Okay.
If I had more, obviously I'm limited in how much coverage I would consider bringing some of them back, because we implied at least that some of them survived and that they
I know we seen one of them come back and actually help Gnasher at one point.
Yeah,
but I just thought it was one of those scenes where I was like,
was so upset about his fate.
I don't blame him. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, man, you expected it to be like, oh no, like this isn't gonna be good. But then you realize they're actual humans and they still have a human conscience about them. There's still very much good people inside these creatures. And you're like, man, I kind of want all of them to survive and actually help out in the battle to come. That was where I was like, my mind went with this is like, because now the U.S. can kind of turn the tides, or Gnasher can turn the tides on these people, and because now he has backup in this, form.
Yeah, I definitely like to bring some of them back at some point. Obviously the limitations of being an indie creator mean you're kind of it's hard to have the number
limited to 32 pages,
the number of pages and the number of comics you want, because after I don't know if you read Cthulhu Man, which was a spin-off.
That's going to be definitely getting read here soon. And I've read a few issues of the Vitsons.
Mhm.
I haven't read all of them yet, but I definitely.
Well, there's only 3, so you might have, if you read 3, you're caught up. But
Yeah, I haven't read all 3 yet. I think I've read like the first 2, and I
the-
think that was back when you sent me the
oh
stuff
yeah,
for Samson. So it's been a little while since I read them. So I definitely need to pick them up and read them again.
yeah. The issue, yeah. So yeah, I think I finished issue 3 while the Camp Samson Kickstarter was running. Yeah, if you see Cthulhu Man, that dealt even more with some of the people who were experimented on,
Oh, okay.
uh,
I didn't.
and
I'll have to.
and there's clearly a couple survivors who I was strongly considering doing a spin-off with, these 2 kids who basically wind up with superpowers. At one point I was thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I'd like to have them come back too, but I haven't been able to get to it
Yeah, I know some of
either.
the ladies that were in Shark of War #8 kind of gave Vitson vibes as well, like they were from that arc as.
Yeah, the well, both Lupita Tiburon, the mob boss, appears in Vicious Vixens in
Yeah.
like every issue, and I think Brooke Douglas makes a brief appearance as
Okay.
well.
That's what
But
I had thought, and
yeah,
that's where I was trying to be like, is he kind of like? Did he just give us a nice little tie-in to all his books?
oh yeah,
And this,
this Cthulhu Man's definitely a spinoff because
okay,
because Douglas is the scientist doing the work, and
gotcha. Because that's
and,
the
and
like I said, I need to read that one, and I need to read the newest issue of Vitson's, or the 2 issues of Vitson. I think I'll be caught up on that. But no,
yeah, and Vic,
I like it that you have these titles going, but you still find a way to kind of pull them
mhm.
all together to some degree.
Yeah, Vixens, the Vixens were, basically being sold as slaves by Lupita Tiburon's, cartel. So she pops up several times in Vixens, both in the backstory and in the current story, because she wants to recapture them for, because she has a lot invested in them.
I like it. I like it, Ben. I like it a lot.
He-
So Gnasher has now escaped the horrifying lab of terrors at last. What does that moment mean for the character, and how does it kind of change his fight going forward? Because he now, with the way his mind is working now and his AI is working now,
yeah.
he's kind of got, okay, this is my second chance. This is my new lease on life.
Mhm.
I'm no longer a captive by these people who want to basically dissect me to get my
Right.
computer and stuff. So like, what's like, how does that change the fight?
Well, now as we see, he's taking it to the enemy, but he does, and he's winning, but he doesn't realize the enemy has this ace up their sleeve in terms of the mega whale of war,
Mhm.
and that's kind of where we're going to see happen in the second issue. In this issue 9, he's hoping, he wants to not only take down his enemies here, he wants to also rescue a friend who also got captured in the last in issue 7. And was being held by
Yep.
the cartel, and his Navy handlers also wants to rescue her because they're it's subtly spoken, but they're in a bit of a relationship. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, you that was you say it was subtly. It's you can kind of like that vibe was there the whole
yeah, I
time.
mean it's not supposed to be that their story is peripheral to the real story, but I try to work it in so people know that there's
You did it very nicely because like you didn't just flat out like, oh, it's this, but
yeah.
you the way you did it very subtly, you put it out there perfectly. At least I thought.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and so he's now on he thinks he's going to be winning, but then the tables get turned, and the desperate fight in this climactic issue begins, and we will end up in a position where we start the next arc, which I'm viewing this as a trilogy in the near term. So the third arc will basically several I don't know how many issues, depending on how well the Kickstarter does.
Yeah.
It may be fewer, it may be more. How quickly I try to wrap it up, but that will kind of tell a complete 3 arcs, complete trilogy of stories
Mhm.
for Shark of War.
No,
Um,
I like it like that,
and
man.
and
I
and
really
then
do.
and then if there's the demand, there's possibility of another set of stories, the Shark of War returns or something like that for a new issue 1, and do what the big comic companies do, and
get a Rise of Skywalker out of it.
Come out with a new issue 1 and things like that.
Yeah, don't even get me. Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't like to do it, but it's almost tempting because it seems to help sales to have an issue 1 as opposed to an issue. Even though an issue 9, I think is a much more important statement of the longevity of the book, and the fact that
to me it is. Yeah.
You're going to get the rest of the story. I mean, you plenty of people get out 1 or 2 comic books. But that doesn't finish the story. And then do they ever get out the rest? Well, some do, and a lot don't. So I think this is is a proof that this is a title that can stay alive.
Yeah, and the way you market it and the way you do shows with it, I think really attributes to the longevity of this book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to do I try to do 6 or so cons a year, to go out and promote it and sell it at cons. And then, hopefully some of those people will come in and back as well. And then that'll help keep the thing going, because you always lose some backers from issue to issue. So you need to bring in new ones all the time. But I really try to make it easy for people to catch up. If you look at the pricing on my digital tiers, where you can basically get the digital tier for like $2 a comic book. All my comics are $2 a comic, or my physical tier where all the back issues are basically, I'm selling them at Comic-Con prices. $5 for a floppy, $20 for the hardcover collection of issues 1 through 5, which is the first arc. But you also get them delivered, and you get them with the digital version as well, which has the bonus features, which we talked about earlier, like extra little articles and stuff like that. I don't want
to really spoil none of the bonus features that you get with the digital stuff, but they are really cool. Ben does take what he does for actual living and kind of breaks down some of the logic that he used when creating the actual Shark of War Gnasher. And there's some other really cool bonus features within the first 8 issues of the book that are just really cool. And the way he does them is very driven in actual science. So it's really dope. If y'all support the book, you just want it digitally, I would highly recommend it, because the bonus features, although short, are phenomenally done. So
thank you.
My 2 cents on that one.
Thank you.
So where are we at? Okay, we're going to do a little bit of diving in on the Kickstarter. So one of the great things about indie Kickstarters is how new readers can jump on board. For anyone just discovering the Shark of War through this campaign, how easy will it be to catch up on earlier issues, which we were just talking about?
Incredibly. In fact, if you go to the Kickstarter page, at the very top of the page is a link. You click on that link, and it will open up issue 1 for you right there. So you can try issue 1 absolutely free. And don't have to sign up for anything. It just opens up a Google Doc, and you can read it all there. The artist for that issue 1 was me. The artist for the current issues is not me. It's somebody who's better at art at me. So the art will be improving if you find my art mediocre. If you find my art good, you'll find this artist great. So either way,
funny that he just brought that back up, because we were talking about that before we went live, how I enjoyed watching the evolution, or we might have been doing it earlier in the show, where we was talking about the evolution of the art along with the shark as well. But it was kind of cool. You kind of can pinpoint when, like, all of a sudden, like, you were drawing, and then you're like, oh damn, he either got really good or he hired an artist right here.
I the first 5 issues are me. I use, like you kind of implied, I'm an engineer by background, so I used a lot of computer models and digital art programs to help me make the art. No AI, but I used digital models to help and things like that. And it works pretty well for Shark of War because with the shark itself, the digital shark looks cool. For
It
humans,
really does. Yeah.
the digital modeling art looks kind of artificial. It gives it a video game quality.
It does, like the old school, like PlayStation 1
Yeah,
stuff.
so it doesn't really look as good. So I knew at some point and also because I'd rather write than draw, I knew at some point I needed to bring in new people. And as the campaigns got, my backing count got a little bigger, I decided I could go ahead and risk it. So from everything from after issue 5 of Shark of War, not only the next 4 issues of Shark of War, but Cthulhu Man, Samson, the Vicious Vixens, all are drawn by other people. And I think you kind of see that the quality of the art does go up. Hopefully the story is for the first 5 issues of Shark of War carries it, and the art
No,
good enough.
it does. No, it 100% does. And the way Gnasher was drawn in issue 8 was absolutely phenomenal. Like, your artist absolutely killed it with the way he was able to make the shark have emotions in certain scenes in the book were amazing. Like, they were subtle, but it's there. You can actually see the emotion on Gnasher's face in certain scenes, which is really dope.
Yeah. So I think you'll get some more of that in this book as well. But yeah, he was very he worked a lot on it. We did a lot of iterations to get everything right. We always go through a lot of talking through the layout, and then where he does preliminary thumbnail sketches, and then iterating back and forth to try and get just the right look. And I think it does really pay off. And I hope people want to go see it and pick it up. Like I said, all the back issues are part of the package. Like I said, I try to price my back issues very affordably because I really want people to get them. I don't want people to just back issue, this one issue, buy the digital version or buy,
honestly, I think if you just back this one issue, you're cheating yourself on a really, really fun and different type of shark story. If you do that, this is definitely one of those comics where if this is going to be your first time jumping in to back Ben and Shark of War, definitely go ahead and put the other couple of dollars down and get the digitals of this, because it is such a good story. Every issue, it builds on the next one going forward, and it's very well laid out and very well told. So
yeah, and if you
spend that extra money.
Yeah, if you get the physical copy and of just issue 9, there's an add-on where you can get all the digital included as an add-on at a very low price. I think it's like $1 a book or something, or somewhere around that price.
I think it was like $1, I think, or $2. It was either $1 or $2.
Yeah, so everything, all the digital copies I sell is as low as I possibly think I can. I think I'm even beating what you can buy a digital copy from Marvel or DC from, frankly. Because I think
those are actually almost normal price.
Yeah, I don't think they give you much of a discount. I do, because it saves me money, because my print costs are a lot more than theirs, because and of course,
they own their print. They own their printer, so
and the shipping costs. They drop ship to your comic store, and you got to go get it. I got to ship it directly to people, which means I'm paying several bucks for shipping. So
yeah, and shipping has gone way up across the board.
So that's why I'm willing to do digital, and I'm willing to do it at a very low price, because I want people to get the back issues. But I really like people to get physical media too, though. So I'm trying to do that as a lower price as I can as well. Simply because I think I back Kickstarters myself, and I know how I am. And how I am is, if I get a hard copy of a comic book, I'm almost certainly going to read it. If I get a digital copy of a comic book, it's probably downloaded in some disk drive on some folder in my computer, and maybe I'll look at it at some point.
So it's funny you just brought that up, because that's literally what I do with my digital my digital comics that I get. Is I create a folder, like say for instance, Ben, you have 2 folders currently on my computer. One for our first interview, and then also for one for this interview.
Yeah.
And within each of those folders, I have the digital copies of your books. And what I do is I'll read it when you first send it to me, so I can absolutely, I 100% want to bring you on and we'll do this interview. And then I also go back and read it the day of. So I literally, before coming live with you, I read 8 issues of Shark of War.
Oh, fantastic.
It's how I like to do things. That way, when we sit down to talk, I have everything still fresh in my head from just reading it, and I can, in case you touch on something that I'm not tracking on, I can be like, all right, that must be issue 9 because I haven't read issue 9 yet myself.
Right. Yeah. So that's great. But yeah, like I said, I think a lot of people, maybe it's because I'm older and, and I'm a relic of an age of print media, but, I think people more likely to read it if they have the physical copy, sitting around rather than the digital. But maybe for younger people, it's the opposite, and they don't want a piece of paper.
100% a physical media guy. I love the smell of a freshly printed comic book.
Right.
Not the ones that have gone to the store, but like when it's went from the press to say your house, and then your house to a bots to my house.
Right.
And you can tell, like, each printing company has its own unique smell from the paper and the print and the ink they use.
Right.
And that will never get old with me. I will always love that smell of a fresh comic book that arrives to my house.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about when you're talking about physical media being in your hands. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. I also like the reading experience better too. I mean, I have a decent sized tablet, so I can read a book okay on my tablet, or I can read it on my desktop. But you can see things better, I think, when it's on paper, and you can even though it's not hard to flip back and forth on the computer, it's even easier to do it when you have an actual physical copy.
100%. And like me, like I like to study the pages as well. So I'll read the page and I actually pay attention to the art because I'm looking for something that's hidden.
Right.
A lot of artists, they will put little subtle Easter eggs in places. And when I'm reading a book, I like to go and like, oh, there's a subtle hint to this little thing over here from this book.
Right.
So that's why I enjoy the most about it is I can put eyes on it, and I like to look at the art. I actually like look at the art, not zoom in on the computer. I can, but I think when it's printed on the comic book page, and you get that more depth in the detail of it,
Right.
So, but that's me. And apparently you too.
Yeah.
So with that, man, what has been the biggest challenge and the biggest reward while bringing Shark of War to life? Not just issue 9, but across the board, like all 9 issues, man. Because I mean, 9 issues is huge for a Kickstarter indie comic.
It's always the Kickstarter. I mean, it's getting it funded and getting it over the line. Writing the story is, it's a little time consuming. Working with the artist, it's all time consuming, but it's the part you want to do. Promoting the book, promoting the Kickstarter, running the Kickstarter, having to, get it funded. Those are the things that, are the hardest part. If I was like, what's that guy's name? Brandon Sanderson, or, he just puts a book out and, he gets, 10,000 backers, $1 million of funding right away. That would make this much easier. I don't even need that. If it funded on day 2, and then made, a little over its funding amount, by the end, I'd be quite happy. And it's easy to do this.
It's crazy you brought that up because not just that one, but like when Mark Spears did Monster, or Monsters, his very first one was done on Kickstarter before it was picked up by a publishing company. And that thing was like I think maybe a day and a half or something. And then within a week, it was picked up by a publishing company.
Wow.
So it was kind of crazy in seeing that.
Was that early days of Kickstarter, or is that
No,
recent? Huh.
Muster's come out earlier this year, I believe, or late last year.
Oh, is he well known? I don't know that.
Mark Spears, yeah,
Well, I guess I'm.
yeah, definitely. He's got a very unique art style, and it's very vibrant and colorful. Not to the level of what's his name? The dude who did the art for Daredevil Born Again, the TV series.
You know, like Frank Miller, or you're not thinking of him, right?
Not Frank Miller, no.
Barley. I think
Something Mac.
Oh.
David Mac or Daniel Mac, something like that.
Oh.
But he does really cool abstract type of covers. But Mark Spears is a very very what's the word I'm looking for? Like almost ultraviolet in the coloring of it. Like if people were to put it under a black light or something, the colors in it would really pop. But it's just very cool like covers and stuff like that. But again, like I think by the end of his campaign or something like that, he was picked up and funded by the Keen Spot, which is 100% an indie company as well. And I think they're doing some really, really good work right now. Personally, there's some really cool, really good indie companies out there who are putting out some very, very good books. That I'm an indie guy. I love indie comic books, but I think they're doing some really good things. Don't Run with Scissors. I don't know if you've heard of it. Is a very good horror comic book done by an artist and a writer out of Italy.
Oh, okay.
And the covers are really fun and really unique, but the story itself is like this dark, very much horror-filled comic book. And I'm like, all right, Italy, I see what you're doing over there. Because it's not something you imagine. Like France did that one shark movie where there was a shark
under the water or something. It was like in the sewers of France or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounded terrible.
It's very unique, something, but it was different.
Right.
So, and I was just like, all right, they bring a new fresh feel of horror to their stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I can get behind this. And it's been a phenomenal read. And I know we're off base right now, and I'll reel it back in for us. So walk us through some of the rewards readers can expect with this Kickstarter, both for returning fans and for brand new backers as well. I know you touched on it just a little bit, but I'll let you expand on it.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one is, you have the digital solo, issue 9, both digital and in hardcover for people who are returning, who already have the book. If you buy the hardcover, you get the digital with it. And then, then going up from there for the digital fans, we have, all my digital, all the Shark of War digital, which is be 9 issues. And then if you want everything, you get all of Shark of War, 9 issues, Cthulhu Man, 3 issues of Vicious Vixens, and 2 issues of Samson. And the universes, you can see how it all ties together in those books, with characters from, Shark of War appearing both now in Cthulhu Man and Vicious Vixens. And in issue 3, we're going to see a cameo by one of the characters from Shark of War in Samson.
Oh, nice.
So
I was about to ask. I'm like, we haven't seen a tie-in to Samson yet.
Yeah,
so
well, Samson right now.
I'm glad to know it's coming.
Taking place at a different time period, but we're going to start to see how how that era, that takes place in the 1990s, leads up to Shark of War.
That's really dope. I like that.
Kind of current day. So we're going to see a cameo by a major character from those comic books.
I like it. I like it, man.
Number 3.
So I like when a big universe like that can be tied in together, and like all your works kind of have that one little element that can bring them all together.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do it at first. I was going to have Samson be a separate universe, and then my younger son was like, "No, you have to have it all be one universe. You have to have a
See,
consistent universe." And at first, I was like resisting it, and then I started thinking about it, and like, that'll work.
he ain't wrong. He's not wrong. Listen
At
to
first,
that
I
young
thought
man.
I thought it wouldn't work, and then I thought about it more and more, and I said, that will work, and it actually will make things improve things. So I'm going to do it.
I
So
like it.
that's
I like it a
so
lot.
that actually kind of changed my thinking about how Samson 3 was going to go a little bit. Um, but yeah, anyway, so for everybody, there are two variant covers. There's the base cover, which is inspired by an old Marvel Monsters cover. And then there's the two variant covers. I always do a spoof of the Jaws movie poster, or one of the Jaws movie posters. And this one kind of is, spins it around, and you see he's not the attacker, he's the attacked, and the woman in the Jaws poster is kind of just being floating aside.
Now,
um,
you always have unique covers on Shark of War. Like that was another thing when in the bonus material that you'll see
yeah, I always put the
is
covers
that
in the digital bonus too, so you get a copy even if you don't buying the actual copy, you get to see it. Yeah, and the other variant cover is a homage to Fantastic Four #1,
mhm.
with the cast of characters in place of the
No,
FF
that's another
characters.
really good one.
So yeah, so those are your kind of your base, what I call your base rewards, and then you have the rewards. You can get all three covers. You have the rewards where you can get all the physical copies of Shark of War, um, including the hardcover, which collects issues 1 through 5, issues
Mhm.
6, 7, and 8, and 9 as floppy issues. And there's the Jaws version of those covers as well, which is
So will you do an so with the new art starting, are you going to take 6 through 9 and do a hardback of those as well?
I don't know. From a business point of view, I don't know if I sell enough of the hardcovers to make it worthwhile yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. I
Okay.
thought about it, but to publish hardcovers, you have to buy a bulk in bulk from China. So
Gotcha.
so you have to, if you're not selling a lot of them, you've got a lot of inventory left over.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if I'm in a rush to do that. I may wind up combining the last two arcs and make, one, have issue 5, and then 1 through 5, and then issues 6 through 12, or whatever it goes to,
Okay.
however many issues it takes for the third arc, and have that be one hardcover. We'll have to
Okay.
see. But yeah, I it the economics of it don't know, and the effort to do it don't always make it work out. so
Gotcha.
but so at this point, if I was larger, I'd definitely do it.
Mhm.
Because then the economics would definitely work out. Um, so then you have arcs where you can get rewards where you can get all the books, and then there's the biggest reward, of course, is being drawn in the book.
Yeah.
There's a couple of cameo spots where you get, you're either killed in the battle, or you're with the Shark of War as one of the bad guys, or you're one of the henchmen or something like that. You may or may not get killed, but there's at least 3 or 4 possible
Mhm.
be drawn in a cameo. It's only a panel cameo, so it's not even. Normally, I charge for bigger scenes. Like last issue, in issue 8, we talked about the creatures, the
Yeah.
monsters. Those people paid to be, the people, the faces you saw on those were people, backers of the book. Every one of
Nice. That's
those
really cool.
those
But
main
I know that
people
can
were.
be, hard to do.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a pretty a higher tier reward, because they not only got to be drawn in as creatures, they each got several panels, good panels of them, in action
And
as
the escape,
monsters,
not to
creatures.
mention,
Yeah, in Escape. Yeah, and it was kind of cool too. Like one person, he does his own indie comic, and he wanted his indie comic. He didn't want himself drawn, and he wanted his own indie comic
Oh,
character
that's really
drawn.
cool.
And
And that's one of those things where, I'm kind of the same way when it comes to my social media presence. You're not going to find like my stuff, but
yeah,
it's for me. It's about the podcast. So
right.
I try to make everything about the podcast. Like no matter what I'm doing, I will circle it back to what I do here.
Mhm.
because I'm really trying to bring people in to the podcast to see Ben, to see
Right.
Mike, who was just on, and before that Bruno earlier this month.
Oh, okay. I know Bruno.
Yeah, Bruno's good people, man, and so is Mike. But I try to circle everything back so I can get eyes on people like you who come on and present their Kickstarter for everybody, and
Right.
that's really been a direction I've been taking inadvertently, but I love it. Taking the podcast is to help spotlight Kickstarter campaigns and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really what I've enjoyed doing. That's all I've done this month. You're my third one this month.
Oh,
so
wow.
And I got one more after you. So when I say this is literally like, if you know somebody with a Kickstarter going on and they need a platform, that's what the USDN has been here for, and I will continue to make it here for that.
Yeah, I think you're on my list of. Yeah, I think you're on our. We have a shared spreadsheet that we share amongst ourselves, and one of the tabs
that's really cool.
List podcast, and you're listed on there. So people, different creators want to look at that spreadsheet because I share it with several Facebook groups. They can.
No, that's awesome. And it's an open invite. It's literally an email. That's how easy it is. Mm-hmm. Like all you do is show up and talk about your comic book. It don't get no easier.
Yeah. It's been very easy to talk with you, and I appreciate you having me on and stuff. I hope your audience enjoys it, and they're sticking with it.
It's funny. Like before, I was always like I wouldn't know, but now here lately, I've been getting a lot of posts. Like I just had Duke Electric on with Greg.
Right.
Beautiful ash can he sent me.
Oh,
really cool story. And like I think there was like 5 or 6 people at one point watching his interview. And then it was like days later, somebody found that interview and left a comment on it. It was like, hey, this is really cool. And I'm like, oh, this is dope. I love this. I love when somebody finds their new favorite indie creator through my channel. I love that. So, yeah, that's enough about me, though. Let's get back to the Shark of War. Okay. So we're coming up. This is the conclusion of a major arc within the Shark of War. Without giving away too much, what is next for the Shark of War once Mega Whale Showdown is done?
Basically, you're going to see in an all-out war between the United States. What happens at the end of issue 9 is basically going to lead to a state of open warfare. We've seen Lupita Tiburon grabbing power, and it's going to wind up in and what she does is I think somewhat shocking. Vaguely a little bit. I think people in the real world will relate to it a little bit. Without Shark of War doesn't deal with real world issues that directly. But you'll kind of recognize what the threat here is, and that it's going to require a major response. So I've tentatively dubbed the arc World War Shark, which is kind of a homage to World War Hulk, and also a reality of what's going to happen in the issue is it goes even bigger. Shark of War gets bigger and bigger, and with each issue, and at least that's the intention, and the action gets bigger and bigger, and at some point you can't top yourself, so that's probably why it's only going to be a trilogy. But
that's perfect. I mean,
unless he starts going into outer space and and fighting.
Let's save that for the Fast and Furious franchise, okay?
Then we're going even further than I want to go, but.
We're going too fast and too furious on this one. You got to calm down a little bit, Ben.
It's going to be a really, really big couple. The final story arc be a really big couple issues with a real.
I like it.
And with a real, it'll end in a place where the story can continue, but you'll feel that you've gotten a satisfying ending for the whole trilogy.
I like that. I like when there's nothing better than a good, satisfying ending
Yeah.
that can be replayed later if needed.
Yeah, I think a lot of stories, that, even, stories that have done really well, a lot of times the ending is kind of unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm.
That you're like, oh, the first part of that was great. That ending was kind of dumb, but okay. and then,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I'm hoping I can
And
stick,
Marvel and
stick the
DC
landing.
are
Yeah,
notorious for that, where they start a story strong and then it goes for maybe 3 or 4 issues longer than it should. And
yeah,
then you just get this shit ending. Pardon
right.
my language for anybody out there, but it happens way too often. If they would have just stopped it at that one issue
Hmm.
and then just be like, okay, we, we stop it there. We'll put the character on the shelf for a little bit, then reach back up and bring them back for another story later. But sometimes
Right.
they just like, oh, we're gonna make this a 12
Yeah.
issue story with like 4 story arcs happening in it, and you're like, y'all need to calm down. All right, you're doing too much. You lost us after number 5. Okay, I won't say what book that was that I just
Yeah.
finished with because I think it's still a few more issues left on it. But
Oh,
yeah, I'm gonna finish it out because I'm
right.
committed at this point. But yeah, it didn't need to go past 5 or 6. They could have just been like,
Right.
it would have been good. But so we'll bring it home. But first, let's get some advice from you to other indie creators thinking about launching their own Kickstarter. What kind of advice do you have for them?
You have to build up your fan base. Kickstarter will share your stuff out with people on Kickstarter, but there's a ton of other projects on Kickstarter. So you're not going to get funded probably, just by, being on Kickstarter. You got to promote it yourself. You got to build up a base first. The number of artists, especially who I'm like, when you're at a con, ask people to sign up to your email list to do, buy your art or something. If I did art at a con, I think I'd have, I think that would help me because I'd have a bigger email list. And I'm constantly shocked that all the artists who
I'm on your
aren't,
email list,
are,
Ben,
oh,
and I
okay.
like your email list.
Oh, thank you.
I like the way you do it. You give a little bit of, like, hey, here's my upcoming Kickstarter, and
Yeah.
oh, by the way, I just watched Superman, and this is my thoughts. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Yeah,
it's not overbearing with stuff. You know what I'm
yeah, I
saying?
don't want to spam people with constant back my project, back my. I'm trying to do a newsletter that's entertaining and interesting.
It really is,
So
and
I'm
I
sharing
think
short
the last
stories
one was
I've
what, a
written.
week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Well, no, I did one on Thursday where I was talking
Okay, it was
about.
Thursday. I knew it was fresh in my head for some reason.
I think that's actually where I discussed the shared universe concept. If that we just discussed a little bit. I went into the history of how originally comic universes weren't shared. They were somewhat standalone, even though Batman
Yeah,
and Superman might be in the same universe. You almost never saw them together until
yeah,
later on, and then it became an incredibly tightly knit universe to the point where nowadays Marvel and their characters are just so they bump into each other going to the grocery store,
we have
literally in some
Deadpool,
issues.
Batman.
But
We have Batman and Deadpool going on right now
oh
as we
yeah,
speak. Issue 1 dropped on Wednesday, so I mean, and before that, we got Batman Spawn. That we just had the second,
I'm, I'm thinking more within
that.
their own universe than within cross.
Oh yeah,
They,
yeah,
they used to, Batman and Superman were in the same universe, but they would never, it wasn't until the 1950s that they started teaming up.
yeah.
And then
I see what you're saying now. Yeah,
and then even then they didn't see each other all the time. But now it's like you pick up an issue of Superman and he's probably talking with Batman, or the Flash is running in, or because there's so many superheroes in their universe. It's
yeah. I do
they're
like those little
overcrowded.
cameos like that.
Yeah,
Like, give me a good Batman arc, but then maybe him calling Superman for like, hey,
yeah,
asking him something or talking to him about something, and it's just like a panel.
right.
I love those little tie-ins like that where it's not related. Superman isn't going to show up in the story. He's just having a conversation with his friend, Clark Kent.
Right.
Or Diana shows up,
Yeah.
A Wonder Woman. I like those little types of cameos like that. Those are always fun to me because it's like, See what they did there. I like that. It's just like a frame or maybe a panel where he's having a conversation with somebody, and you see the same thing. Like Superman will swing through a Batman comic for advice or something like that, and it's always really cool. You'll see them up on a rooftop somewhere, and they're talking to each other, and then Superman just flies off, and Batman goes back to brooding on the rooftop. So I always enjoy those little ones like that.
Yeah.
But no, now it's like you got Justice League, you got all that stuff, and I love Justice League, especially Justice League Dark.
Right.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. So let's bring it on home real quick, Ben. Tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find a Shark of War plush of their own.
Oh, yeah. You can get, also, I didn't mention that. You can get the Shark of War plushie as part of this.
I'm here for you, Ben. I had you back on that one.
It's an add-on, or it's in a tier. So yeah, definitely you can get the Shark of War plushie. Very nice little plush animal with the USS Gnasher logo on it. But yeah, that'll be part of the Kickstarter, which is sow.bitingcomics.com is the shortened link, or you can go on Kickstarter and there's a much longer link. I don't know if you'll put it in the
literally, if you go to Kickstarter, type in Shark of, it's the very first thing that pops up.
Oh, that's good. So yeah, so you can get that, get the plushie and my Kickstarter and all my comics as part of that. If you want to go to bitingcomics.com and sign up for my email list, you'll be taken to a page where you can not only read the first issue of Shark of War, you can read the second issue, first issue of Vicious Vixens of Dakawanga, and the first issue of Samson. Plus, you'll get my my handy How to Avoid a Shark Attack guide, which is
that was a good one. It's also on the digital, in case anybody's wondering.
It's issue 3 and it's in the digital collected.
Yes, I think it's 3 and 4. I think.
Yeah, it's 3 and 4, or in the hard copy. The single trade copy. It's in there as well as a bonus feature. I had so many people come up say, "Oh, I'm so scared of sharks after seeing Jaws." I figured I did some research and wrote a humorous little 4-pager for
it's really
what
good
to do, and the advice is real. The art's supposed to be humorous. Hopefully,
you accomplished that. That's really good.
But yeah, so I hope people will check it out. Like I said, I'm about halfway to funded with about half the time left. So I'd like to get it funded. I'm used to getting funded on the last day. If that's when it happens, that's when it happens. But I'd very much like to get it funded earlier.
Funded, my friend.
Yeah.
Funded is funded. Where can they find you on social media? I know you're on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, Shark of War, B Lacy 1 on Twitter, Ben Lacy 1 on Instagram. What am I on Blue Sky? I'm on Blue Sky too, but
I think you're Ben Lacy on Blue Sky as well, but I can't remember. Yeah,
B Lacy 1 also, or it should come up as Ben Lacy, but my handle is at B Lacy 1. I don't go to Blue Sky a lot because I
know.
At first I thought people went there, and then I was like,
so it had a lot of hype in the beginning, and now just like any other platform, it's either you're hardcore this or you're hardcore that. I happen to be a podcaster, so I have to spread my love throughout all the platforms. I think
a lot of creators are on Blue Sky, but I don't think a lot of fans are on Blue Sky. I think the fans are still on Twitter and Facebook, and all the creators.
And it's funny is like
nobody followed them.
in the beginning, the fandom was all on Blue Sky, and then it's kind of like, oh, I guess Twitter isn't as bad as we thought it was. We'll go back over there. Yeah. And I don't have a Twitter. I got a Blue Sky, so I'm like, it works. It does everything I need it to do. So it is what it is at the end of the day. But Ben, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it.
Folks, if you love cyber sharks, maniacal villains who make their way around all of Ben's comic books, boss level whale battles, Shark of War is definitely up your alley. I enjoyed every issue so far of this book. It is phenomenal. It's very enjoyable. It's readable. And sometimes you don't get a book that's very readable. Like, it's weird. Like, it looks cool. The art is great, but when you start actually reading the book, it falls flat. Shark of War does not fall flat. It is very good, start to finish, cover to cover. Go grab the latest issue, pick up some of the previous chapters in both digital and hard copy forms. And all I'm saying at the end of the day is back it, support indie comics, get yourself a Shark of War plush. And at the end of the day, Ben Lacy, Shark of War, they're all USDN approved. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you joined us tonight, I want to say I appreciate you, Ben. As always, I appreciate you coming on the USDN podcast. As always, you're welcome back anytime you want to come on. So with that, let me find my outro because I don't have my outro set. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
It's a trap!
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm trying to